Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at Bitcoin, and we'll again have a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. And I suppose it's very much exactly the same as what I've been saying now, which feels like for 2 or 3 weeks maybe. This could possibly be an accumulation range, right? It's shaping up to be something similar to that. It's very early to say because we can't confirm that the lows are in, but my expectation is that they are in. But there's no real confirmation of that yet. Not until we start to I wouldn't say break bullish, but to start to move some of these moving averages into the more appropriate positions, which they're kind of doing right now. So in the very short-term time frames, I would expect a rejection from here. This is the 200 exponential. This is never good to be below it. And just as you would be hopeful that when we're above it, you come down to test it, that we catch a good bounce, to which we did. And when we came down to it, we did have a decent bounce. But breaking down below it is pretty tragic. And the last two times, previously, most recently, that they tested it, we were rejected quite heavily from it. And so if this is just an accumulation range or a reaccumulation range, or maybe it's just consolidation at a low level, then I would expect to be rejected from here on the first pass. I mean, on this daily time frame, there's not really a great deal of bullish things about it, but there are some nice little gems, I suppose, that you could hold on to, something to keep the bulls, happy. A bit of hopium, really, which is simple Bollinger Band strategy, which is that, yes, this is the first time we've come to test the top side of the range of that Bollinger Band, and also it's very strong rejection here. Top of the Bollinger Band with the 200 exponential lends itself to a pullback to maybe the 10 exponential at best. It's about 38,000. Or maybe a little lower, down to about 36,800, where the centre of that Bollinger Band is, and also the 21 exponential is all there as well. But again, this is pretty much what I expected last week, that we were going to come up to test the 200 exponential, which is what we did, which is about that $41,000 area, which is one of the more, well, I suppose my videos have been far and few between recently because the range is going to be so boring. There's pretty much not a great deal more I can actually say about it, because it's going to be, in my opinion, in this range for a prolonged period of time. So to do daily updates on it, obviously I suppose I can understand the relevance of that, but for me the grand picture is the one to hold on to, which is that, yeah, we're going to test the lows, test the highs, test the lows, test the highs. This range will get played out until these moving averages all align in the same sort of area, where it really does become a true reaccumulation zone. At the moment, technically still is a downtrend because we're below these large moving averages. We're above the smaller term time frame ones. So this is shaping up like a classic reaccumulation at this point, but really I would be more interested in calling it an official accumulation once they've all started to merge together. So whether these cross and we merge down together at a lower level, or if these cross and they merge together at a higher level, either way the range is going to be pretty big, and I mean like really quite big. So we've already tested 30,000. I actually think 28,000 is still on the cards, to a maximum of the breakdown zone, which is just short of $50,000. So we're talking a 74% from bottom to top area, and from top to bottom, what that would look like if you're looking to accumulate at the top side of the range is a 43% range. So still pretty massive range, but sometimes, well, very often times, especially for me when I trade a lot of altcoins, a 43% accumulation range is actually smaller than most. I've reaccumulated in many altcoins in ranges which are more obvious than this, with much larger ranges. So EOS was about 70% range, YFII that's about, that's really big, might even be over 100% range. There's lots of accumulation ranges that have been played, and that are maybe even still playing out right now. They're a lot bigger than this one. But again, this is going to have two sides to this. You've got the largest side, the larger aspect, which is, in my opinion, about 28 to as high as 4950 or 49,500. But really, we've got a smaller range within that, which is basically the 33,000 to, at the moment, the 41 to maybe the screen 50 exponential 42, 43. So there's a smaller range within this, which is most likely to be the area that gets played for the majority of the time, and that is 33,000. So where are we? We're about here. Let's just say that safely to around about there. So there's a 24% range or 30% range from the bottom to the top. and from the top to the bottom, if you are looking to accumulate anywhere, it's a 23, almost 24% range. So a range within a range. This inside range is the one that's most likely to be played, and this is the one that's going to be spending the most amount of time in. But there will be occasions, in my opinion, that we will break all the way up to this level, and potentially all the way down to this level as well. But the majority of the range will be fleshed out in the middle of that. And I suppose that lends itself to the idea of bull traps and bear traps, you know. So if we break above this 200 exponential, let's just say today or tomorrow or some point this week, people will get very excited and go crazy on it. That will probably give it the power to move close to $50,000, where it probably will see a significant rejection, shorts will stack, and then probably will end up going all the way down to the lower range. Remember when I talk about these charts, because I remember, I see it occasionally, probably more often than not now. People seem to assume that the second that they watch this video and it's finished and it's ended, that the move will immediately take place. Absolutely, it's going to happen. I've just watched the video, it's definitely going to do it. Look, we're talking about a daily time frame here. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen today or even tomorrow. Daily time frames, you know, we have to wait a whole 24-hour period for a candle body to even close and be printed indefinitely on the chart. All right. So just because I'm doing this analysis on the daily, which lends itself to the bigger picture, and for me, you know, the more relevant picture. Look, I'm talking about something here that could take weeks to play out, because we're talking about a daily time frame. So just because you've finished watching the video doesn't mean that the move is going to play out the second you've finished it. All right, it is likely to take days to weeks for this range that I'm telling you about to get fleshed out. So, you know, today this could break above the 200 exponential, make its way up to potentially as high as 49,500, potentially that high, probably more along the lines of about 46, to be honest with you. That seems a bit more relevant, about 46, but this is still an area of significance, and we could also break down all the way down to 28. But most of it is going to be played out around here, and I honestly think that this is going to take months to play out properly. And I can't even say in all certainty which way it's going to break, to the up or to the down. My favour is still to the up, definitely. Provided, you know, the main thing is that we close weekly candle bodies above 33,000, which is the green 50 exponential on the weekly, which we basically spend most of our time above. This is only the Binance chart, unfortunately, but and that is basically that. So again, it's the same old thing, the boring old story. It's all about accumulating in an accumulation zone, which is what I've been doing, and accumulating Bitcoin, to be honest with you, because the way that we like to, or the way that I like to play this Bitcoin dominance chart, and again, this is something that people took a great deal of offense to when I've spoken about it, but it's not something that I've just whipped out and pulled out the bag. Sometimes I read these comments and I'm like, oh my god. But I suppose they probably don't follow the channel. And I'm saying that altcoins are likely to get wrecked. And someone was going, but altcoins have been wrecked for the last 2 weeks. And, you know, I didn't bother replying. But realistically, I said, yeah, in my head, I was like, yeah, and I've been expecting this to happen for a while. The lower the Bitcoin dominance chart gets, I know that noobs think that this is great, but the great place to get in on any trade is you buy at support and you sell at resistance, right? So we have been anticipating a bounce, basically a support. So you hedge back into Bitcoin the closer you get to a tangible support, in the anticipation for a bounce, whether that's a bounce in the face of the market getting wrecked or a bounce in the face of Bitcoin rallying significantly, taking the market cap away from altcoins. Yeah, so yes, altcoins have been wrecked for a couple of weeks, but it was always on the cards. And those of us who are, I suppose, members of the Patreon and so on, have probably heard me talk about this every time it came down to a level of support. And I said, let's just hedge into Bitcoin just in case. Let's hedge into Bitcoin just in case. Let's hedge into Bitcoin just in case. And now, you know, finally, you know, hedging into Bitcoin has been the more appropriate place to be, and probably will remain the most appropriate place to be until we probably push all the way up to perhaps maybe 50, 52. That would be the first area where we could look at some altcoins and think about where they are on their own charts, and make the decision of shall we go into some altcoins at this level. And hopefully, you know, we will get to a point with altcoins where they are significantly wrecked, and we can do what we did back in January when we got in on altcoins in January. And obviously that was one of the best alt seasons I can recall ever. and based upon this chart. So now what we're looking at is the opposite of this, where this chart could potentially do maybe not a full reversal, but a decent bounce. And those who were around, between September to January will remember that it doesn't take much for this chart to move up for altcoins to be completely destroyed. September to January was terrible for altcoins, not just for their sats, but for their dollar pairings. Some of these things would retraced from their top to the bottom by over 90%, right? So that's when we start to get excited about altcoins again. That's when we look at the entry points. That's where we make the 5, 10, 20, 35x's, similar to the ones that we were doing from January. We don't just buy into them because they're lower than they were last week. I mean, you can do that if you want to. I mean, that's catching a knife. Or we can wait for the time, wait for the more appropriate time. The time is right when it tells us that it's right, and then we do our 5, 10, 20, 30x's. Look, I'm sure if you were to buy some of these top cap coins now and wait long enough, you will do pretty well. But for me personally, I like to play the charts. I like to get in at the right time, and that's how I managed to do all these massive gains. You know, that's what it's all about. And it's a simple strategy. It really, honestly, is a simple strategy. We look at this. It's support, resistance. It represents market cap. We don't want to be in assets with small market caps if we believe their market caps are going to get even smaller on the back of a bounce, right? So that's all it really is. We can afford to be in Bitcoin throughout this period. That's okay. The market cap of Bitcoin was still going up despite altcoins increasing, but you don't want to be on the inverse of this. You don't want to be in altcoins if their market caps are decreasing, not because we could argue that everything's going to increase, but Bitcoin increases more significantly. But the worst case scenario is that money shifts from altcoins into Bitcoin. That would be the worst case scenario, because then you would really see some significant red candles on those altcoin charts, especially the smaller cap ones, which doesn't take much for market caps to be drained out of some of those. This is why we love them when they go up, because it doesn't need much money for it to go straight up to the moon. But also, it's the opposite can take place. It doesn't take much money to be taken out for it to basically hit the absolute ground floor and go lower than you ever expected. You might think of some of these altcoins as low in their value now and go, well, this is a good price. It was all the way up here. If I bought here, I could double, triple my money. You could, but you could also lose another 50% or more of your money by going in on them. Let's get in on them at the right time. And in my opinion, the right time will be at earliest around 52% dominance. And ideally, we would want to smash through all of these, and we'd want to get to potentially 56, maybe 60% dominance for a much better rejection point. But again, we will hedge into some of these altcoins, not blindly. We'll be basing them on their charts, and we'll be basing them on this chart as well. So again, let's not go crazy. Let's just think about what's actually taking place here, and it is basically doing exactly as expected. Bitcoin fleshing out a range. If we break to the up, it will only be temporary. I do not think we're going to go V-shaped recovery, and I hope that we don't. I need to see a period of accumulation. Now, I wouldn't even mind if we came all the way down to the $28,000 zone and just accumulated here for another month or two at least, allowing these moving averages to all basically align in the same place. And that will brew. That's what it will do. It will be like stewing your coffee in the morning, right? You don't want to just stew a load of coffee, in 10 seconds. You want to leave it for a few minutes at least. Get the flavour out. So when it's time to drink it, you get the full impact, and then it'll be time to go. Let's not rush this. There's nothing to be rushed, all right? This is going to be playing out this range for a while, and every time we go up, as we've just seen, the Bitcoin dominance chart also went up with Bitcoin when it went up. You can only imagine what's going to happen when it comes back down again to the lower side of the range. You can see now, can't you? You can picture that. What will happen to your altcoins if they're small, rubbish little altcoins? They're going to get wrecked, right? And we're starting to see the cracks now, because normally we're not used to seeing, or people I suppose aren't used to seeing, Bitcoin going up and outperforming altcoins in an uptrend. So you can only imagine what is going to happen if and when, I'm telling you, when we come back down to the center of this Bollinger Band or even lower, altcoins will just go down way more. And then if we perform this kind of behavior for another couple of months, going up, Bitcoin outperforming, going down, altcoins getting crushed, going up, Bitcoin overperforming, you can see that even if it were just another month of this, where we have at least one up and one down a week, incrementally, how much lower some, not all, but some of these altcoins will end up. They will end up basically completely wrecked. And by the time I would imagine this to be over with for altcoins, we're talking, towards the end of the summer, if not, into the fourth quarter. Some of these altcoins are going to be so tasty to pick up around those levels, and we buy them on their signals. I can't say I've got a crystal ball. I can't say that this is definitely going to happen, but my expectation is that this is how it is going to happen. This is what will happen, and if it does, then that'd be great, because this is the strategy that I prefer to go for. It's the one that I've used for the last few years, and I am in no, I suppose I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty confident that this is how it's going to play out, and it's going to take time. But that's fine. I've got time, and it's not an enormous amount of time either. We're in June right now. We're talking perhaps August for this for the next alt season of any significance. Probably won't be as big as the last one that we've had, but it will be. It looks like it could shape up to being a big one around October, November, roughly around those sort of times. So we're talking the fourth quarter, and that will be opportunity for 5-10x's, or more. But right now it is all about Bitcoin, and I am personally just sticking to accumulating Bitcoin within this range, casually, because Bitcoin will be my currency, the currency that I'll use to trade into altcoins when the time is right, but the time is far from right. Right, so that was a long rambling one, I've got my live stream tonight for Patreon members, so if you want to tune into that, there's a link in the description below. £7.50 a month, you get access to 2 live streams a week, and we'll look at pretty much any altcoin or anything that you want me to check, and I'll have a look at that. But overall, that is the general picture. So looking at some altcoins can be useful, but I still think that they're likely to be a deceptive chart. The main ones to look at is Bitcoin and the Bitcoin dominance chart, and they represent, I suppose, over time, when we should start looking at altcoins again properly for entry points. Right, I hope you have a nice day, guys. Take it easy.